Hello everybody and welcome to Flock Talk. Today we're going to be going over a few of the reasons why your bird might not be responding to cues when you need them to. If you have ever had a bird fly and land somewhere that they are not supposed to and then refuse to recall when you ask them to, despite the fact that you have practiced this behavior 100 times before, then this is going to be the video for you because I'm going to tell you why that happens. The first thing I want to consider in these situations is stress. When there is too much stress in an environment, our birds can quite literally shut down and be unable to perform behaviors. This is because when too much stress piles up and they go over threshold, they essentially shut down and go into a state of just wanting to survive. They're not going to be able to consciously make decisions as much as they are acting on impulse and instinct. One way that we can help curb this problem is to help adjust our birds to new environments and reduce stressors. An easy way to do this is through exposure and desensitization strategies, where you encourage your bird to interact with new things they might find scary on a somewhat regular basis and help them recognize through new associations that these things aren't so scary after all. By doing this, you help not only build your bird's capacity to not be stressed by 1,000 little things, but it also helps them overcome stress and learn how to combat stress and build that confidence, which means that when you run into a situation that you haven't trained for yet, your bird will be more capable of coping with that stress and being able to respond anyways, even if it's something that they haven't seen before. The next thing I like to consider is the reinforcement history for this behavior. You can think of a reinforcement history like a piggy bank, and every time that you have practiced this behavior, added another repetition to it, and given them a treat, you have added some change into that piggy bank, which you are storing up and saving for later. What this does from a behavioral standpoint is it sets your bird up to be able to look back at this behavior and go, hey, every time that I have done this, it has been really valuable for me. I have no reason to think that this isn't going to go well for me. This has been super, super valuable and enjoyable of an experience, and I'm probably going to go forwards and do it again. Even if we are in a context that is new for the bird, because you have practiced the behavior so much and you have built up so much history of reinforcement with it, it makes it really easy for them to reflect back, and then when they're making a decision on what to do, they're able to decide that it is a good choice to make based on all of those previous experiences that you have built up with them. All you have to do to be able to improve the size of your bird's piggy bank is practice those behaviors more often and ensure that they are having regular and consistent reinforcement being given for those behaviors. The next thing I'd want to look at is the environment that you are asking your bird to perform in. If all you have done for this behavior is practiced it in one room on one perch, your bird isn't necessarily going to understand what you want them to do in other contexts. So if your bird is able to recall in a straight line from the perch to your hand, that doesn't mean they're going to be physically or mentally capable of flying down from a high place. Not only is that much more physically demanding, but it's scary. Even for a bird that should know how to fly, if your bird's newer to it and hasn't practiced flying down very much, it can be really, really intimidating to look down and have to jump off and trust yourself to catch themselves. So when we are asking our birds to do something like fly off of the top of a kitchen cabinet that we didn't want them onto, we have to ask ourselves, is this a skill that that bird is actually capable of doing, and have we practiced this context before? If we haven't practiced in this context before, it's very reasonable for our bird to not necessarily understand what we are asking of them, even if it seems easy for us to generalize that skill from a perch to the top of a kitchen cabinet. It doesn't quite work the same way for our birds. They won't generalize those skills quite as well, and we do need to make sure that we are practicing in the context that we want them to be able to perform in. An easy way to do this is just to start having your training sessions in different rooms of your home. This can mean having your training session in the kitchen. It can mean actually putting them up on those cabinets and practicing recalling off of them, starting with you standing straight across from them and then gradually lowering yourself so they learn how to fly down from those different places in your home. The more places that you practice in and the more styles of flying with your inclines and your declines that you practice, the more strong your bird is going to get and the more confident they're going to get with those abilities. Another thing that's going to happen is the more places that you practice in, the easier it's going to get for them to generalize that behavior moving forwards. So once you have practice in every possible location in your house, when you are faced with a situation where your bird has landed somewhere that you've never asked them to recall from before, they are far more likely to understand to recall to you in that context, even if they've never been there before, because of all the other places that you have practiced practiced in before. It just makes it a lot easier for them to understand that the recall still counts even in that environment. This next one is honestly one of the biggest reasons why you will have a recall that starts out really, really strong, and then all of a sudden they stop responding to it, and you'll just see the reactions get worse and worse and worse. And this is from recalling them away from fun things way too often. Whenever your bird has flown up somewhere and not wanted to come down, there's usually a good reason as to why they've gone up there. Sometimes there's something fun they're chewing on that they're not supposed to be chewing. Sometimes they just like being up high. Sometimes something scared them and they feel safer up there. And sometimes it's just comfortable. But every single time that we recall them away from that fun, enjoyable experience, the recall can become tainted. It can become a little bit poisoned. Because now, instead of it being in a training scenario where the bird is excited and ready to recall, and then we are calling them and they're getting a treat, and that entire sequence is exciting and enjoyable and fun, now they are having fun, we are ending that fun, and then we are trying to cope with it by giving them a treat and kind of cover up the fact that we ruined their fun by calling them away. Now, this isn't to say that every single time you recall your bird away from something fun that it's going to mean that they never want to recall again. Absolutely not. But what this means is that we need to be careful with which battles we decide to pick and choose. Because sometimes, yes, my bird is up on the cabinet, I don't really want them there, but they're not doing anything wrong. They're not chewing on anything they're not supposed to be. They're not inherently in any danger. It's just my personal preference. They are up there, they're having fun. Do I have to call them and potentially add more aversion to my recall? No, I really don't. I can leave them there, let them have a bit of fun, and then move them a little bit later, or I can recall them for practice and then put them back up there. We want to reduce the number of times that we're using our recall to end their fun and ensure that when we do have to end their fun with a recall, that we are making it way more exciting than whatever they were enjoying before. So this means maybe I recall them and I give them a ton of treats and I redirect them onto a fun activity. Sometimes this means they were up high and it's not safe, like they're on a ceiling fan. So I'm going to recall them and then put them somewhere else that is high and safe. So it fills that need of being up high, but it isn't somewhere that's going to be unsafe for them. Now, this doesn't mean that we absolutely will never recall them away from things that they can't be doing. Absolutely not. And we're not going to taint our recall either. A key thing we can do is utilize something known as Premac Principle. And what that basically means is we're going to be reinforcing the less desirable behavior, which is recalling to you, with a more desirable one, being up high. And what that can look like in this context is recalling our birds down off of that high cabinet and then putting them straight back up there. They don't want to come down to us because they're having fun, but the act of coming down gets reinforced with getting to go back up there and enjoy the activity that they were doing before. Utilizing that principle in a variety of contexts can make your behaviors extremely strong. And now you're changing their mindset. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to recall and the fun is going to end, they can think, oh, I'm going to recall, I might be able to go back and continue what I was doing anyways, or I might get to go do something even more fun than what I was doing before. The last thing we want to consider for today is competing reinforcers. There are a lot of things in an environment that your bird can find reinforcing. And if we are not valuable enough to outcompete the resource that they are enjoying over there or whatever they are finding reinforcing, then our recall is never going to be good enough for them and they are never going to come in and hang out with us instead. The next time you see your bird up somewhere and you're kind of confused as to why they would want to be there, take a moment to try and figure out why and try and decide why that spot is so valuable to them. You can use that information as something to pile up your piggy bank, because those are reinforcers that you can add to the experience. If your bird is up there because they feel safer up there, the next time you recall them, you can use height as a reinforcement. And now all of a sudden, that reinforcement history that you've built has height and that safety and that comfort as something for them to reflect back on and think, hey, I'm feeling safe up here, I need to recall away. The last time I recalled away, they also gave me height and safety, and that's what I wanted. That's kind of what you want to build, and the more that you expand upon your piggy bank and your reinforcement history, the more you're going to be able to outcompete the other reinforcers in the environment. And with that, your bird is going to become much more likely to recall to you without hesitation moving forwards. So that will do it for me here today. I hope you guys found this video informative and helpful, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!